Hello, I'm William Smith with the Carmel Luxury Group, and we have a very special interview with one of our professional team members, Tamara Hadley. And Tamara, thank you for being here on our podcast. I'm looking forward for this introduction to include a lot of information about your history because you and I go back a long way, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Good. We just closed a deal, and you do ranches. We do ranches as a team, and you have a really happy client. So congratulations on that recent closing up in Carmel Valley. We're going to talk about some of your areas of expertise, but I want to just say you did a tremendous job on this recent close because it was a complicated property.
It was. Everything about the transaction was complicated. It all turned out great at the end.
It did. And I'll tell you, your client really, really was grateful and gave you great accolades. So I want to just start this conversation to introduce you. And I'm going to start with I have my questions written down here. That's why I'm looking away. But the important one is, how long have you been in the real estate industry?
I've been in the real estate industry since 1983.
No way. You can't possibly be old enough to say 1983.
Well, I was going to college at night and I figured I needed a job. So one of my neighbors suggested I go talk to someone at the title company. So I went to First American Title and they hired me. I was an office assistant and worked in the title department for a little bit. Then I migrated naturally into the escrow department, which I absolutely loved. There was a wealth of knowledge to be learned there. And meeting the people and the realtors, it was a very exciting time for me.
Well, getting that depth of information and training, when it became time for you to get licensed, you had lots of escrow experience and lots of title experience. So when somebody says, well, explain this preliminary title report, I'm going to venture to say that you can explain it a lot better than most realtors can.
Absolutely. I did. I typed them, I read them, I wrote them.
Good. Well, so then you got licensed, and that's when we first met. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, I'd moved down to Southern California, where I continued my escrow adventure. I met some really wonderful people. I landed in Beverly Hills, met some wonderful people, and started an independent escrow company in Irvine of my own. There, I worked with a lot of different people and learned a lot of different things. There's many different facets to properties in different parts of California. We're very different. I also started taking real estate classes at night, and that's where I really got interested in sales. So when I got married and wanted to start a family, I moved back to Carmel and got my real estate license and started working with you in 1996.
Fantastic. Well, and one thing I want to explain to some people that may not understand what you just said, independent escrow companies. Well, in Central and Northern California, we have title companies that do escrow. So we use Old Republic Title as an example. But in Southern California, escrow companies exist separate from title companies. And that's something that I think for a Northern California client, they may not have ever experienced that before. But that's very different than what we're used to.
It is. It's really red carpet service. You have to really go above and beyond to really get that business from the realtors.
Good. Well, fast forward, you had all that escrow experience, all that title experience, and now you've gotten licensed. You're in the Carmel Market. You knew people here. We got to meet. You came to work for Pacific Bay Real Estate, which is our independent company before we franchised with Prudential California Realty. And we hired you, and I'll tell you, what a wealth of knowledge we had. It was a pleasure having somebody on board for our team office to be able to have somebody with that much experience. That was great.
Thank you.
Good. So you talked about when you got licensed. What are your specialties now in now 1996. So you're going on what, 30 years? That's amazing. So what are the specialties you like to focus on the Monterey Peninsula and Monterey County now?
Well, I work with both buyers and sellers, and I specialize in single-family residences, condominiums, multi-units, all over the peninsula, but I like to focus in on Carmel Valley, Big Sur, Pacific Grove, Monterey. Those are the areas that I really enjoy working and where I
Good.
meet
Well,
most of my clientele.
when you take on a new client, what do you see your job description as?
You know, I really take my job seriously. I think that I am probably one of their most trusted advisors. So I'm helping them navigate the entire process from beginning to end.
Mhm.
So my job description varies depending on the client, if they are a first-time home buyer, if they're a sophisticated seller who needs to do a 1031 exchange. A lot of different things going on there. So it's full service, and I try to determine at what level of knowledge they have about the real estate market, and that really dictates, the conversations. When I start off with a buyer, the first thing I need to do is find out if they have been pre-approved or pre-qualified with a lender. We need to know that before we even jump in the car and start looking at properties. Otherwise, expectations may not be met. A lot of things.
Well, okay, that's very important. But let's talk about pre-approval. I know that Chad Hawker, our team lender at Synergy One Lending, really emphasizes that pre-approval is so much more valuable than pre-qualified, because pre-qualified is just a conversation.
Right.
If what you say is correct, this is what you qualify for. But pre-approval is if you get the property, the contract, and the appraisal, we've already approved you. Now we have to approve the contract and the property. That makes it much easier for you as their buyer agent to be able to go out and find a property that really does make sense for them and their budget, because you have a shopping list and you have a budget to work with the pre-approval letter, and sellers take you more seriously.
Exactly. And we're in a very sophisticated market on the peninsula. And I believe most brokers and agents really put a lot of weight on that.
Good.
If they're looking at multiple offers, which we all know we have been the last couple of years, it's necessary.
Good. Well, here's something that you said that was really interesting. 1031 exchange. And now, those of us that have been in the real estate industry for decades used to do 1031 exchanges all the time. And then we had the recession where people had no equity. So 1031 exchanges from 2006 through 2019 really weren't mainstream. There, I mean, it's always there. It's a 1031 is a IRS regulation, and it's always been there. But in the real estate industry, on the day-to-day, when people are working mostly with residential, they don't necessarily get involved in the 1031 exchanges. All of a sudden now we have a whole new group of buyers. Millennials are becoming of age. Even some Gen Zers are starting to buy, sell, and trade. And I watched shorts on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and there's a lot of talk amongst this younger buyer group about investing in real estate. It's really refreshing and exciting to see that. But 1031 exchange, they're starting to talk about these sophisticated tax planning events. And for them, oftentimes, not only there may not be a first-time buyer, but they might be a first-time 1031 exchanger. And with your escrow background, you certainly can explain a 1031 exchange very well from practical experience with lots of background. I think that that's something that's very valuable that people need to know about you.
Thank you. Yeah, there are a lot of nuances to 1031 exchanges, and they're changing every year. They keep continuing to become more sophisticated. So what we thought was the basis for something 5 years ago may not necessarily be the only option for them today. So investment properties are, generally allowed for 1031 exchange. And then you've got timeframes that everyone needs to adhere to sell the property, to identify the property. So it's a complicated task, but it can be done, and it's a very valuable tool for sellers.
Good, good. Well, I'd like to also continue on with another important question here. So you're an experienced real estate professional, but how do you stay current with the changing trends in the marketplace, with regulation, with contract law, with escrow? What do you do to keep yourself current?
Well, working at Coldwell Banker is really one of the best things that I've done. Making the move here, they are so dedicated to providing ongoing education. Our attorneys actually wrote most of the initial disclosures for the state of California. So they're very in tune with what's going on, and they keep us up to date. Along with that, we have our lender, Chad Hawker at Synergy One, who really talks about inflation and how it affects interest rates, and where he sees the market going, and reading, just keep it on top of the news. What's happening? Why are the Feds continuing to raise interest rate when inflation is coming down? What are their expectations? So continuing education is huge in all aspects of this industry.
Good. Well, you are informed, and it's your clients are the better for it. We just had a wonderful example of your recent closing on that Carmel Valley Ranch that your client gave you great accolades. Just so wonderful to hear. So to wrap this up, when a client comes to you, let's say it's an out-of-town buyer, they find a property that they like, you connect with them, and they ask you some questions about the general area because they really don't know the area. And they ask about the differences between one community on the Monterey Peninsula and another. What is it that you do to help them learn as much as they need to know before they can start writing offers? And what do you do to prepare them sort of from beginning to end? We can wrap up with that, and you can kind of give us an overview of how you do your client support and client care.
Sure. Well, I suggest always they come and spend a little bit of time here. And we get in the car and I start driving them around to different areas that I believe that they've described they have an interest in living in. So we may go to lunch in Pacific Grove one day, go to the beach in Carmel, drive to Carmel Valley and show them some wine tasting rooms. There are so many things going on in this area, and it really is dependent upon what their goals and needs are. Do they want to live in very warm weather, Carmel Valley, or do they want to live by the beach, a little cooler?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that we do have for sale at one thing that we have for sale on the Monterey Peninsula that the rest of the country doesn't, and that is mild temperatures. I just went to a conference in Frisco, Texas 2 weeks ago, and my God, it was so hot, 106 degrees. I got home, it was 67 degrees, and I just felt so relieved. So that's one thing that we have a lot to offer, and mild temperatures is a year-round phenomenon for the Monterey Peninsula. So we've got lots of different little communities. What are some of the differences if somebody says, well, I'd like to have a quaint little town, maybe some Victorians, or I'd like to have some great shopping and some great restaurants, or I'd like to have my business near where my home is. What are some of the different nuances of the communities on the Monterey Peninsula?
Well, Pacific Grove is well known for their Victorians, and they've got some beautiful homes. A lot of different types of homes as well, and there are many different areas in Pacific Grove. You can live by the beach, you can live, inland, almost in the forest. You can walk to town in certain areas, you can walk to the beach. They're highly rated for their schools, as well as Carmel. Carmel is a destination for people around the world for its restaurants and wine and the beautiful beaches. The schools are fantastic, and I always suggest that they go online and look for themselves and see the data that's been compiled that shows how great these schools are and the involvement of the parents, which I believe is a huge reason why there's a large percentage of our kids that go to college and graduate.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to just to kind of explore with me what some of your background is and also some of the things that you have to offer to your clients. One of the things that really stands out to me is that your depth of knowledge about the entire contract process for your clients and getting them to be able to get the right home, the right community on Monterey Peninsula. So Tamara Hadley, thank you very much, and I do appreciate it. I invite all of you to come to our website, carmelluxurygroup.com, and we have lots of information there for you. You have the communication and contact information to get hold of Tamara if you have questions. And Tamara, thank you very much. Look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you, William. Have a great day.
All right. See you later.